He stood there, a 17-year-old black teen, keys in hand, staring at the beat-up sedan he'd worked 2 summers to buy. Officer Daniels, leaning against his patrol car, smirked and said, "Kid, that rust buck, it's one bad turn from the scrapyard. You sure you didn't steal it?" The words stung, sharp and deliberate, drawing snickers from the officer's partner. But 24 hours later, that same officer would be parking that rust bucket in the driveway of a mansion, his jaw on the floor as the teen watched from the front steps, a quiet grin on his face. Wherever you're reading this, whether it's New York, London, Chicago, or Manchester, stick with me. This is a story about assumptions, comeuppance, and a kid who flipped the script on a cop who underestimated him. They called him Jadden Carter, a senior at Lincoln High in Atlanta, Georgia. At 17, he was lanky, with a quick smile and a habit of keeping his head down. Jadden wasn't one for trouble. He worked weekends at a local auto shop, saving every dollar for a used 2005 Honda Civic. The car wasn't much, faded blue paint, a dented fender, and a rattling exhaust. But to Jadden, it was freedom. He'd spent $3,200 of his own money, earned through sweat and long hours, to call it his own. Jadden's life wasn't flashy. He lived with his mom, a nurse, in a modest apartment on the west side. But what most didn't know was that Jadden had a side hustle. Since he was 15, he'd been coding apps, building small programs for local businesses. It started with a website for the auto shop, then an inventory app for a corner store. By 17, he'd quietly amassed a small fortune, enough to invest in a tech startup that was now valued at millions. Jadden didn't flaunt it. He liked his low-key life, his beat-up Civic, and the fact that no one saw him coming. Officer Michael Daniels, on the other hand, was a 15-year veteran of the Atlanta PD. At 42, he was stocky, with a buzz cut and a reputation for being tough on troublemakers. Daniels patrolled Jadden's neighborhood often, his eyes always scanning for something out of place. He'd seen Jadden before, driving that Civic, and something about the kid, young, black, confident, rubbed him the wrong way. Maybe it was the way Jadden carried himself, never cowering, never looking away. Daniels didn't like it. It was a humid Friday evening in July when it happened. Jadden was driving home from the auto shop, his Civic humming along Peachtree Street. He'd just finished a 10-hour shift, his hands still greasy, his T-shirt stained. At a stoplight, he noticed the flashing lights in his rear view. A patrol car. He pulled over, heart picking up speed, but kept his hands on the wheel, just like his mom taught him. Officer Daniels stepped out, his partner, Officer Ruiz, trailing behind. Daniels approached the driver's side, his flashlight scanning the car's interior. "License and registration," he said, his tone flat, but edged with something sharp. Jadden handed them over, calm but alert. "Where you headed, kid?" Daniels asked, eyeing the Civic's worn seats and cracked dashboard. "Home," Jadden said. "Just got off work." Daniels raised an eyebrow. "Work in this thing? What, you delivering pizzas?" Ruiz chuckled from behind. Jadden's jaw tightened, but he kept his voice steady. "Auto shop. I'm a mechanic." Daniels leaned closer, his flashlight lingering on Jadden's face. "Mechanic, huh? This car looks like it's barely holding together. You sure it's yours? Not borrowed? Not lifted?" Jadden's grip on the wheel tightened. "It's mine. Paid for it myself." Daniels smirked, stepping back. "Paid for it? What with your allowance? Look, kid, cars like this don't belong to kids like you unless something's off. You got anything in here you shouldn't." He gestured to the car, his tone accusing. Jadden's eyes narrowed, but he didn't take the bait. "Nothing's off. You can check if you want." Daniels didn't search the car. He didn't need to. The point wasn't evidence. It was power. He handed back Jadden's license with a slow, deliberate motion. "Get this junker fixed, kid, and stay out of trouble. I'll be watching." Ruiz laughed again as they walked back to the patrol car, leaving Jadden sitting there, his pulse racing, his pride bruised. That night, Jadden couldn't sleep. Daniel's words echoed in his head. "Cars like this don't belong to kids like you." It wasn't just the insult, it was the assumption, the idea that Jadden couldn't have earned something, couldn't belong. He stared at his laptop, the screen glowing with the dashboard of his startup's latest project. An idea sparked. He wasn't going to let this slide. The next morning, Jadden made a call. His startup, Carter Tech, was hosting a private event that evening, a showcase for investors at a mansion in Buckhead, Atlanta's wealthiest neighborhood. The property belonged to one of Jadden's business partners, a tech mogul named Marcus Reed, who'd taken Jadden under his wing. The mansion was a sprawling estate, 8 bedrooms, a 6-car garage, and a driveway that could fit a small army of vehicles. Jadden had been there before, working late nights with Marcus, but he'd never driven there himself. Today, he would. He also called the event's valet service, a company used to handling high-end cars for Atlanta's elite. Jadden had a specific request. He wanted his Civic valeted, front and center, when he arrived. The coordinator hesitated. Valets typically parked Bentleys and Teslas, not 20-year-old Hondas. But Jadden was insistent. "It's my car," he said. "Make it happen." Meanwhile, Officer Daniels was working an overtime shift, moonlighting as security for the same event. It was a cushy gig, directing traffic and keeping an eye on the wealthy guests. He didn't know Jadden was connected to the event. To him, it was just another night of dealing with rich folks and their fancy cars. As the sun set, Jadden pulled up to the mansion in his Civic, the engine rattling louder than ever. The street was lined with luxury vehicles, Porsches, Mercedes, a Rolls-Royce gleaming under the streetlights. Daniels was stationed at the entrance, directing cars into the valet line. When he saw Jadden's Civic roll up, his eyes narrowed. He recognized the kid immediately. "You lost, kid," Daniels called out, stepping forward. His tone was mocking, his arms crossed. "This ain't the junkyard." The valet, a young guy named Chris, approached the car, confused but following orders. Jadden handed him the keys, his face calm. "Park it up front," Jadden said, loud enough for Daniels to hear. "Right by the entrance." Daniels laughed, shaking his head. "You serious, this piece of crap? Kid, you don't belong here. Whose invite you crashin'?" Jadden didn't respond. He stepped out of the car, wearing a tailored blazer he'd borrowed from Marcus. He adjusted his cuffs and looked Daniels dead in the eye. "I'm not crashing anything. I'm hosting." Daniels' smirk faltered, but he doubled down. "Hosting, you? What, you mow and the lawn here too?" A few valets and security guards nearby chuckled, but Jadden didn't flinch. "Check the guest list," Jadden said, his voice steady but firm. "Jadden Carter, Carter Tech." Daniels snorted but waved over another security guard, who pulled up the list on a tablet. The guard's eyes widened. He's on here, Mike, VIP, co-founder of the event." The air shifted. Daniels' face froze, his hand still hovering over his radio. "Co-founder?" he repeated, his voice quieter now. Jadden didn't wait for a response. He walked past Daniels, up the marble steps of the mansion, where Marcus Reed was waiting at the door. Marcus, a tall man in his 40s, with a commanding presence, clapped Jadden on the shoulder. "You're late, kid. Investors are waiting." Daniel stood there, watching as the valet drove Jadden's Civic to the front of the mansion, parking it right by the entrance as instructed. The car looked absurdly out of place among the luxury vehicles, but that was the point. Jadden had made sure of it. Inside, the event was a whirlwind of suits, champagne, and tech talk. Jadden moved through the crowd with ease, pitching his startup's latest app, a logistics platform that was already drawing 7-figure offers. Investors hung on his every word, unaware of the drama outside, but Jadden hadn't forgotten. He glanced out the window, catching Daniel's silhouette near the driveway, his posture stiff, his confidence shaken. As the night wound down, Jadden stepped outside to retrieve his car. Daniels was still there, directing traffic. The valet brought the Civic around, and Jadden tipped him generously. Daniels avoided eye contact, but Jadden didn't let it go. "Officer," Jadden said, pausing by his car, "you were right about one thing. This car's a piece of crap, but it's mine and I earned it, just like I earned everything else." Daniel's face reddened, but he said nothing. The other valets and guards were watching now, their earlier laughter gone. Jadden slid into the driver's seat, the engine sputtering to life. He didn't look back as he drove off, but he knew Daniels was watching. The next day, word spread. A local news outlet picked up the story after a valet posted about it on X, calling it the ultimate clapback. The post went viral, with thousands sharing Jadden's story, a black teen who'd turned a cop's mockery into a moment of triumph. Daniels' name wasn't mentioned, but those in the know recognized the details. He didn't pull Jadden over again. Jadden didn't dwell on it. He was too busy running Carter Tech, meeting with investors, and planning his next move. But he kept driving that Civic, dents and all, a reminder of where he started and how far he'd come. So, whether you're in Miami, Birmingham, or anywhere else, take this with you. Don't let anyone tell you what you can't do. Jadden Carter didn't. And the next time someone underestimates you, remember that kid in Atlanta who made an officer park his rust bucket at a mansion. Now, what's your story? Share it, live it, own it.